The year was 1879. James Hingsley was an Australian journalist who returned from his voyage to Indonesia with a strange tale on his lips. He claimed that the northern islands were populated with an evil flower that captured insects and devoured them whole. Is this a lie, a trick, an evil curse, or a little shop of horrors planned? By no means. It's just the work of one devout little insect known as the Orchid Mantis. But sometimes, blending in means standing out here in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at LD Taxonomy, or visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. I gotta enunciate that more. And a very special thank you to our patrons, Tristan Taylor, Jesse Raspolich, Carol Raspolich, Paul Chomo, and Richard Kaspar. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on.
And today we're talking about a bug that engages in more aggressive mimicry than a middle schooler repeating everything you're saying. But more on that later.
Oh man, I've got that joke later on in my notes. I'm keeping it. If you have a sibling, then aggressive mimicry is something you're probably pretty familiar with. But what are we talking about?
We are talking about the Orchid Mantis.
Orchid Mantis.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like an obscure actor's name. Like, this is starring Mads Mikkelsen and Orchid Mantis.
It does.
And Benedict Cumberbatch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Orchid Mantis. It's also called the Walking Flower Mantis or the Pink Orchid Mantis. Although it's not always pink. But we're going to call it here the Fleur Fatale. And the Planter Snatch.
Planter Snatch. I like it.
From the Bandersnatch.
What is Bandersnatch? Benedict Bandersnatch?
Benedict Bandersnatch. Bandersnatch cummerbunds. No, it's a monster from Through the Looking Glass.
Oh. Would you like to know what science calls this?
I think I would.
Okay. It's in the kingdom you know, love, and are in, the kingdom Animalia. It's in the phylum Arthropoda. It's in the class Insecta. It's in the order Mantidae. Guess what those are?
I'm going to go with sharks.
No, they're those guys that kind of trick bulls.
They're matadors.
Mantises are the order Mantidae. 2,400 species. They're in the family Hymenoptidae. Hymenopodidae.
Hymenopodidae.
Hymenopodidae. Hippopotamus. The genus is Hymenopus, and the binomial name is Hymenopus coronatus. I like that.
That sounds like a Hogwarts professor.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Hogwarts professors, it's time for my favorite part of the show: nitty-gritty nomenclature. We already know what a mantis, a group of mantises, is.
And I definitely remember, so...
Yeah, I knew you would remember. It's a congregation.
Oh,
did you not remember?
That, but I might have remembered once you said it.
Yeah, that's true. I was like, if he doesn't remember off the top of his head, he will remember when I say it. But yes, it's a congregation of praying mantises. One of the best terms of venery, because it's the most appropriate. But no, we're going to go with nitty-gritty nomenclature. We've got Hymenopus coronatus. What... Joe, does that mean in English? Does it mean A, crowned flower, or B, floral king, C, winged foot crown, or D, blood shell crown.
Blood shell crown. Final answer.
Eh.
Dang it.
It is winged foot crown.
No, not on the radar at all.
Him the hymen thing is like a winged membrane. And then puss is foot, like octopus.
Membrane.
And then obviously coronatus, coronate, corona. It's all crowns.
Yeah. Yep. The crown was locked in, but the rest
I figured.
of it was not.
Nice. Yes, winged foot crown. Not that the praying mantis has wings for feet, but it's. I mean, you're going to get in the description here in a second, so I'll let membranes. You say. Yeah.
So yeah, the orchid mantis is a small, colorful mantis. It diverges from the typical leaf green color to be mostly white and pink. Their heads are shaped like typical mantises, but make it more aquiline. So they're
Dracula
eyes,
style.
Yes.
The only adjective that Bram Stoker had to describe his Dracula was aquiline.
Yes.
Over and over and over again. Like, whatever that means.
That's where I learned that word, like an eagle. Do you know what that? Did you know that that's what that means?
Because Aquila is like eagle.
I guess.
In Greek or Latin or something like that.
Aquila the hun.
Aquila and the bee.
Yeah. So their eyes come to point at the top of their head, and they taper down. The whole head tapers down like a V shape to their mouth parts. Like other mantises, they have 4 walking legs and a pair of spiked legs in the front for catching prey. Mm-hmm. And should I go further? Well, I guess I will say the thing that you teased, which is they have like these broad planes on their legs.
Oh yeah, you can go all out with the description, the physical description of this guy.
Yeah, so like their legs have this broad area, which could be the wings, the wing description in the binomial name, and then the back of their abdomen have this dot on it, which will be important later, either for you or for me. But I'm going to leave it there. Leave the punch for the punch time.
Okay.
That brings us to the Beloved Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. This is the part of the show when we present the animal's size and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you send an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering. The words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have a new Measure Up intro this week, so I've decided to incentivize every time we have a new Measure Up for the Measure Up intro for the Measure Up segment, Carlos gets 5% towards his nursing school victory. On both questions.
Huh.
So if you'd like to see Carlos win,
or have a 5% greater chance of winning, because these can't stack, we only get the one Measure Up. Although in 1 week, if multiple people send Measure Ups, but we only use the one, does that count, or does that spread out?
I would think we would only use the one, because I still want to be able to reserve the right to give you additional trivia questions that will stack with this.
So this game is getting a lot more complicated, even though the points don't matter.
Right. Well, we got to spice it up. Like you have to continually build after 200 and whatever episodes.
Can I get percentage point? Can I get extra credit for having stumped you in nitty-gritty nomenclature?
That's a different game. That I will lose like 40, like probably.
You win more than you lose for sure.
Do I?
Yeah, I don't know. Someone who's been listening, maybe keep track. But
I feel like I lose more, but that
I
might
feel like
be
you win more.
Negativity bias.
Do I have positivity bias? Or no, it's negativity for me because I don't want you to win.
You're
I'm trying
the
to
games
stump you.
master.
So in both cases, it is negativity bias. You're right. Yeah.
Let's talk. Well, first let's introduce the segment. We're gonna go back into the archives to find a measure up intro that was good and that we enjoyed. So without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
Yeah, just kidding. It's measure up.
Do you remember that?
Remember that one. It
From
gave me
some
heart
rando?
palpitations.
From some rando mindset reframed.
Yeah, that was terrifying. I do remember that. I remember that as the day my heart skipped several beats. Yeah.
Your heart grew 3 sizes.
Yeah, it was very traumatic. It hurt a lot.
Let's talk female length. They have among the largest size sexual dimorphism. Males are less than 50% the size of the female, which is nothing compared to the anglerfish, but we digress.
Actually, that's relevant. I'll talk about the anglerfish later on.
So the females are 2.5 inches or 63 millimeters. So how many orchid mantises go into the height of the tallest orchid?
Oh, boy.
And here's a hint. This hint means something. The pseudo vanilla foliata is called the great climbing orchid because it is not freestanding. It is instead a plant that climbs structures like trees. So this is a plant. This is a flowering plant.
What is it called?
Pseudo-vanilla foliata.
That sounds like I could buy it at Starbucks.
It is like I guess kin to or looks like the vanilla plant.
Yeah, I mean, I want a venti grande, whatever, of a vanilla foliata for absolutely sure.
Half calf.
Yeah, no, full calf.
Jitters?
Goodness,
Oh, okay.
I don't sleep. Remember, when you have kids, you don't sleep. You need the full vanilla foliata, full calf experience. Double shot. Anyway, continue.
I have no reason to continue.
Well, for you out there in podcast, yeah. So, it's the vanilla foliata. This tall vine-ish thing. Vines can go real high.
Mm-hmm.
It probably goes up a tree. Is it in Southeast Asia?
I think this is in Australia.
Oh, okay. Not that it matters, because I don't know the average height of trees in either place. I'll say, I mean, a vine, goodness, that could be hundreds of feet. But I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say 60.
60, you said.
Yeah, I think it goes up a tall tree and wind, like it goes up like maybe a 40 or 50 foot tree, but like winds around a couple times. So,
well, we're talking height. I don't know if we're gonna be. When they measured the highest plant, they probably measured it from the ground straight. Probably not like winding around a tree.
Tall trees can be 60 feet. We're going with it.
It's true. They can be.
288. Orchid mantises go into the height of the vanilla foliata.
Final answer.
With foam.
The correct answer is 235.2 mantises.
That sounds like a nursing school victory. Let me do the math.
What did you say?
I said 288.
288. Let's see. That is
an
81%.
Yes. I'm going to nursing school.
You're going to be a nurse. So the great climbing orchid has been recorded climbing 15 feet, or 15 meters, or 49 feet. So you were only 11 feet off.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Yep. That makes sense.
So let's talk male length. They're
Yes.
only 1 inch compared to the 2.5 inches of the females. That's if you speak British, that's 25.4 millimeters. So how
The
many
British
of those,
sometimes use the imperial system.
That's because they're copying the cool kids.
They're the imperials.
How many of the smallest flowering plants in the world go into the length of a male orchid mantis?
How many of the smallest what's?
Flowering plant.
Flowering plants.
So here's
smallest.
Yes. Here's a hint. The smallest flowering plant is Wolfia globosa. Cool binomial name. Which is called duckweed and Asian watermeal. It grows on the surface of calm bodies of water. If you take some in your hand, it looks like slime until you look closer and see individual green pods. It can be eaten and is integrated into a lot of Asian cuisine.
That's what's growing over the surface of all of the lakes at the Jacksonville Zoo. They put a little sign up that says, "Listen, this place is because everyone was complaining, saying like, hey, I think you're choking out your lakes with algae," and they're like, "It's not algae, it's duckweed." And it's fine. And it's a sign of a healthy ecosystem in Florida. Calm down. So yeah, that's like a bunch of little little things.
Little pods.
So,
it looks like in the hand, it looks like that magic sand almost.
yeah, that foam stuff. Like that as seen on TV's foam.
Mm-hmm.
What is it called? Like
sensory play sand.
Sloam or something like that.
I'm seeing magnetic sand, magic sand, kinetic sand.
Kinetic sand is actually a lot of fun. We got it for our nephews, and we just sat down and played with it. And I was like, "Wow, it's sand that doesn't spill everywhere. This is great. Sand that doesn't. This sand is rough and coarse, but it doesn't get everywhere." Anakin would love
sand.
this stuff.
Sand is my sand.
Yeah, that's how you divide it up. You actually like draw a line in the middle and say this sand is your sand. This is definitely Anakin's favorite kind of sand. Imagine if Tatooine was just kinetic sand. I mean, if you have the Force, all sand is kinetic sand. But I'm gonna say an inch. Goodness, but those are so small. I'm gonna say 25.
This sand is your sand.
So 25. That's it. That's my answer. 25.
25 duckweed plants?
Yeah.
The correct answer is 125 duckweed plants.
Boy, I almost said 100, but I was like, man, they're bigger than that.
No. The plant can be 0.1 to 0.2 millimeters or 0.004 to 0.008 inches in diameter. For the math, I went with the upper end of average.
That is a dramatic loss.
Mm.
But at least I got the last two digits correct.
Yeah, you're only 100 duckweed
something.
plants off.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for that. Would you like to learn some fast facts before we get into the big old fact?
Yeah.
Let's talk orchid mantises. So the orchid mantis is native to Southeast Asia and prefers rainforests, like a lot of stuff that lives near a rainforest because of biodiversity. Mm-hmm. So like most mantises, it's carnivorous or carnivorous, if you will. Will you?
I might.
In labs, it seems to prefer butterflies and moths. But it can eat a ton of stuff, like flies and just bugs in general. It's an insectivore. So it's specially designed to catch flies, like that little dot in the back of its abdomen and that I mentioned is, I guess, it looks like flies, but only, I guess, to flies. I think it looks like not a fly. Distinctly not a fly. It looks like a dot.
That's because you're thinking like a human. You're
like
so human-centric.
Like a F. Yeah, yeah.
Why don't you step into the exoskeleton of a 24-hour lifespan, dumb little housefly?
We gotta find stuff to eat. Look at that. There's other flies on there. Let's go over there. No.
I gotta find something to eat and someone to mate with. Stat. Before. I've been trapped inside this person's house because I got sucked in with the air conditioning change, and now I can't get out this window for some reason, and now things are looking dire.
I can't get out this big open space. I'm very annoyed by it. I'm gonna keep trying though.
Wish me luck.
The orchid mantis is sometimes a cannibal, and it may eat its own, even its own siblings.
That's sad every time.
Yeah. But that's all I got for that. Would you have any large facts, thick facts, viscous facts?
Girthy facts is actually what we have here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh man, I didn't name this major fact. I gotta remember to do that. I should name this Fleur Fatale. that was the nickname.
Flower power?
Yes, flower power. There we go. Flower power. All right. So, from the intro, I know, Joe, you haven't heard the intro yet, but James Hingsley was an Australian journalist, and he visited Indonesia in 1879 and came back telling people about this flower that reached up and devoured insects whole. And so you might think, like, oh, there's a Venus flytrap. Done. Wash my hands of this nonsense. But the reality is that it was not a Venus flytrap. It was a little insect, the Orchid Mantis, that was so baffling him. Although, if you really look at this guy, like, he looks, it does a good job of looking like a flower. But as humans, we notice details. We're remarkably good at that in comparison to insects. They're not very detail oriented. They have a lot of other senses going on. And their vision is much more, they like to see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
So this is what allows the Orchid Mantis to use its mimicry ability. And we've covered a few of nature's greatest mimics on this show, including a spider that mimics a flower. So this is along the same vein. Some animals use mimicry to avoid predators, like the mimic octopus. Others use it to be predators, also like the mimic octopus. The Orchid Mantis also uses it for both. But mainly, the observation has been for its predation. But it can also, because it looks like a flower, avoid being eaten by birds and things like that. It uses a tactic that we mentioned earlier called aggressive mimicry, which is like when your sister goes, and you're just like, I don't want to watch Sweet Life of Zack and Cody again. It's time for some Drake and Josh. Hand me the remote, please. But actually, aggressive mimicry is using camouflage to stand out rather than blend in. So most of the time, camouflage is used so that other things, either prey or predator, they don't see you. The point is to not be seen. But with aggressive mimicry, you want to be seen, but you don't want to be recognized. So, for the most part, if you're prey and you have camouflage, you want predators to not see you and to leave you alone. And for the most part, if you're a predator and you're using camouflage, you want prey to not see you and also to not run away. But with this one, it's the idea is to lure things to you. Like the wriggling worm tongue, the grima worm tongue of a snapping turtle, or that glowing bioluminescent lure on a female anglerfish. There's the anglerfish tie-in. They want to be found, like the ring. So when it turns out that if you like to eat bugs, looking like a flower has some definite perks. The orchid mantis will find orchids and climb up different stalks, finding ones that have flowers. And once they do, they will clutch the stalk close to the other flowers, or on the flower itself, and sway with the breeze, purposefully sway, in order to mimic the way that the buds move in the breeze. And they will also wiggle that little black dot at the end of their abdomen that you mentioned looks like a fly. 2 flies, because flies don't really have a lot of detail-oriented vision. They just see like black dot. That's a fly. I'm gonna go see if it's my soulmate. But however, their main prey, the orchid mantis's main prey, is pollinating insects. Like these are bees, wasps, butterflies, moths. They land on the flower that so these other insects will land on the flower thinking they're just going to do a little bit of pollinating, maybe sip a bit of that sweet nectar, and then bam, they are caught in the elbow jaws of a hungry mantis, with those like horrible inwards facing spines that like lock the prey into place like a nutcracker, or like one of those handheld nutcrackers, and just put them in the deadliest full Nelson in the insect kingdom, in the insect class. It's class. But they don't always need to be around flowers in order for this to work. They don't need to look like one of several flowers. In fact, researchers have found that they actually are better flowers, or better at attracting insects than actual flowers, or actual orchids at least. This is because orchids are very particular when it comes to the insects that pollinate them. So they attract particular insects. There's actually one type of orchid that only attracts male bees of one species. That's the only insect that pollinates it. That's not the case for all the orchids, but most orchids are like at least have a selective attraction mechanism, so that not every insect just comes and sips that good nectar. So if the mantis mimics one specific orchid, then it will be really limiting the insects that come into its grasp. So instead, the mantis has more of a general orchid disguise. It becomes a jack of all trades. It gets a B+ rating for multiple orchid types rather than an A+ for just one. So this means that it has a greater attraction rate, because again, insects do not really see what we see. So if you ever look up a picture of this, which I recommend because this is actually a pretty insect. It's a pretty insect. You'll be like, oh, look, I can see it. Duh. How come the flies can't see it, or how come the moths can't see it? Just imagine, like, just unfocus your eyes and slant them a little bit, and maybe see a little bit more of like what they see, which is just this unfocused blur that does not really focus on details and more relies on scent and sound and pheromones and things like that. But for the most part, they're like, hey, that kind of looks like an orchid that I might want to have a vacation on for a second. And it's not really important for it to perfectly mimic one particular orchid, because the devil's in the details. So yeah, it is a very accomplished flower mimicker that's aggressive. So aggressive. And then it pounces out and grabs the and grabs the prey like lightning fast. I think we talked about how fast it does it when we talked about just the praying mantis in general in the previous episode. But it's
Faster
one
than Lightning McQueen.
and he is speed,
Mm-hmm.
which is impressive. But that's all I got. That's the flower power.
That's all I got.
All right, so that was the Orchid Mantis. For you out there in Podcastia, pick a pretty flower, hold on tight, and slap your favorite bugs out of the sky like the Orchid Mantis here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
That was a short episode. I was all over the place with that. I could not find my stride.